Is my voice clear? Okay, let's start the second session of this course. Now this also acts as a demo session. So basically we will look into the concepts of SOA. Even today we wouldn't do any practical examples, but I will go through the concepts in a more technical way today. Yesterday we have seen it in a very generic fashion, right? Just to a layman how SOA means for a layman. So today we'll look into the specific technical terms like the definitions and principles, etc. And then I will take a simple example to actually demonstrate different components that Oracle SOA Suite offers. So let's jump onto the session. So before I start this, yesterday we have seen what is SOA in very generic terms. So we spoke about different concepts. We have seen, we have gone through certain concepts, and we have also observed that if we follow those concepts, what are the advantages we had, and finally concluded saying those principles are nothing but service-oriented architecture. So let's look at what service-oriented architecture is in technical terms. So SOA is an architectural style for building business applications using services that act as black boxes which can be composed to each other, thus achieving a specific business functionality. So we have seen the same definition yesterday, but it didn't make much sense since we are very new to SOA. Today, if you read this twice or thrice, it makes little sense to you. And slowly, like when you go through the course, then it would make even more sense. So let's let me explain you this definition. So it says the first thing is SOA is an architectural style. So we know it is basically an architecture. It's not a technology or a platform, and it is used to build business applications. Now this is very important. I gave you a very simple example yesterday, but let me specify much more details. So business application is something that really makes sense to business. Okay, so what I mean by this is there are two teams in any company, right? Oh, I didn't share my screen, I'm sorry. Okay, you should be seeing my screen. Thanks for that, Tommy. So I'm just explaining the definition. So SOA is an architectural style of building business application. So business application is something that really makes sense to a business. So basically you have a technical team and a business team, right? Let's say a logging service. Okay, so a person comes into a portal, he first logs in. Now that makes much sense to a technical team, but it really doesn't make any sense for the business, right? They're not achieving anything. Obviously it doesn't generate any revenue, but anyways it is required for the security of the application. So logging service would be something very important to the technical guys but not business guys. When I talk about business application, it is basically some business functionality. It has to achieve some business functionality. For example, let me talk about expense reporting system. Okay, so you know what is expense reporting system, right? You do any business travel, you file expenses, correct? So you submit all the bills and then you log into your self-service portal and then you submit it. Your manager will approve and then it goes to the finance department, and then finally the amount will be credited to your account. So basically this particular process end to end makes a business meaning. I mean, it gives a business meaning because it is basically applying expenses and then getting back the money. So it's something related to the business. So if you take only one thing like submitting your expenses, it doesn't make much sense, right? It doesn't have end-to-end meaning. Okay, so SOA comes into picture only when there is a business meaning. So you have many services and all the services have to be orchestrated to give a specific business functionality. That is where SOA comes into picture. And the next part says using services that act as black boxes. Now yesterday we have seen how each and every service is really independent of each other, correct? And then what is there within the service, like I mean, we need not tell everyone, right? So the implementation lies within the service, but it exposes only the operations. So basically each and every service act as black box, and which can be composed to each other. Now what is composition? Composition is basically, so the same example, expense reporting system. You have let's say you, and then your manager comes into picture, and then finance department comes into picture, and then say banking service, which credits the amount into your account, and then it's end. Okay, so let's assume each of this is exposed as a service. So when you compose this in an order, only then it makes sense, right? So this is basically composition, or in other words, interconnecting different services is composition, thus achieving a specific business functionality. Okay, so you have to compose your applications in such a way that it achieves a business functionality. See, the expense reporting system cannot start with you and then the finance department and then banking service and manager, right? It has to be in a specific order. That is where the composition comes into picture. SOA is nothing but a set of standards that make your application more agile, respond quickly to changes, easily maintainable and extendable, cost effective by reusing the existing resources, thus reducing the IT business gap. So we have seen all these one after the other yesterday in our example. So this is kind of a revision to that. Okay, and SOA is not a technology or a specification, but it is just a set of standards or principles, right? So let's talk about all the SOA principles. There are about 7 different principles that are defined by OASIS. OASIS is an open group that defines SOA principles, and it basically takes care of everything related to SOA. Okay, so they have defined 7 SOA principles. So let's see what are those principles. First one is service contract. Okay, so service contract meaning each of the component within your enterprise has to have a contract. Okay, a contract is nothing but an agreement between interacting services. Okay, so what is an agreement? For a service, an agreement would be something like this. Let's say this is a service for getting the balance amount. Okay, let's say this is get balance is the operation, and the service name is say some service X. Okay, so the contract of this service would be something like this. I mean, you cannot send whatever input you want, right? You can send only a specific input. So it will give you what is the input that you need to send. So basically in this case, the input would be your account number, and then maybe for validation your name, and then address, and the response would be the bank balance, right? So your input and output are specific to this particular operation, correct? So a service contract will tell you what are the inputs and what you can expect, what is the operation name, and if there is any security, like if there is a SAML token you need to pass, or if there is a message protection policy for which you need to generate the key store, whatever it is. So basically it tells you end-to-end details of a particular service. That's called service contract. Okay, so when you say contract, that means the contract will be always same. Okay, so when I am a service provider, I cannot change the service signatures as and when required, because there are hundreds of people who use my service. If I change the signature, obviously everyone gets affected, right? That is the whole reason why we have a contract. Okay, so when there is a contract, I am bound to keep my signature same. Okay, so I can change the implementation within my service, whatever it is, but always the signature has to be same. So that is nothing but the service contract. An example, I mean, how we achieve a service contract, a best example would be WSDL. You know WSDL file, right? Web service definition language. So WSDL file is something which is contract. And the next one is service abstraction. Okay, it says beyond the descriptions of the service, all the internal details are hidden to the external world. Okay, so I'll take another example. Let's say a credit card verification service. Okay, you give a credit card number, it goes to a verification service. Now how it verifies, like what is the logic behind that, what are the databases it checks for checking whether the credit card number is correct or not. All these things are really abstracted. The only thing that is exposed is its operation name, its inputs, and its outputs, right? So we just give the credit card number and it tells you whether it is valid or not. Okay, so the internal implementation is completely abstracted from the outside world. So that is what this says. Every component in your enterprise has to be abstracted. Like you shouldn't tell, or in other words, you need not tell your internal implementations, because everything, every component is individual to itself, like it's not dependent on each other. So that is the reason you need to abstract it. What is the advantage with abstraction? Advantage is that even when I change the logic with internally, my contract doesn't change, so my consumers also would not change. That is the advantage. And the next one is service discoverability. Now the name itself says your service has to be discoverable. Yesterday in our example, we have seen how service registry has simplified our work. Like each and every service, or a general example would be in Yellow Pages, every business would be registered in Yellow Pages, right? What is the advantage? If someone wants to check a business, they can just go to the Yellow Pages. It's kind of an advertising, right? So the same thing here. Each and every component has to be registered somewhere so that it is discoverable. So when it is discoverable, obviously it can be used, right? The whole purpose of components is to reuse. That is the reason everything has to be discoverable, and the way to achieve this is service registry. And the fourth principle is service autonomy. What it says is services should have complete control over its functionality. Okay, so you'd have heard about autonomous universities. Means no one controls it. Everything happens within, whatever decision it has to take, the university itself takes it, right? The same thing here. So whatever logic that needs to be within your service, you take care. No other service will actually decide your functionality. Okay, so if I am a service provider, it's my wish to implement however I want. No one can really touch me. Okay, so, or no one can control me. And the fifth one is service loose coupling. So yesterday we have seen what are the problems with tight coupling. So when two components are tightly coupled, so if the service provider changes, even the service consumer has to change, right? A simple example would be, we all had, let's say I have a machine with Windows XP, okay, and I am good, I am happy with it. I don't want to buy anything. Let's say for some reason Windows stops support for Windows XP and they ask me to buy Windows 8. It gives a free upgrade, but whatever, just for hypothetical situation. Let's say it says all of you just upgrade to Windows 8. Now, since he has changed, since the service provider has changed, I have to change my OS, right? So that shouldn't be there in SOA. That is the reason why we have made all the services loosely coupled. The advantage with loose coupling is even the service provider changes, I don't care, I don't change. Okay, only when I want to change my service I will change, but my service shouldn't get affected when the other service changes. And the next one is service reusability. The name itself says each service has to be reusable. Okay, so you cannot say that, let's say there is a get balance service, you cannot say that my operation works only with Java components, or my operation works only within a particular enterprise. You cannot say that. If it is a get balance, it has to be get balance service irrespective of whoever is calling you. So that's reusability. You have to be reusable. Okay, and then composition. Composition forms one of the major parts in SOA because we are talking about business applications, right? So business application is basically interconnecting different services so that you achieve a specific business functionality. So one of the principles and one of the major principles in SOA says each and every component has to be pluggable within your business flow. Okay, or let me read through the actual definition. It says services should be effective composition participants regardless of the size and complexity of the composition. So regardless of the size, however big it is or however small it is, your service should work in the same way and it has to be pluggable. So these 7, I mean, all these we have seen yesterday, but we spoke in very generic terms. But basically, these are the 7 principles that SOA tells you, or OASIS tells you. So what it really means? What it really means is, if you are saying that your application has to follow SOA principles, or your application is a SOA application, that means it has to adhere to all these 7 principles. Okay, so in other words, if an application adheres to all these 7 principles, that is a SOA application. So if it is a SOA application, what is the use? We know what are the advantages of a SOA application, right? Now you need not remember all these, but you need to understand like what are these principles. Okay. Okay, I forgot one thing. Okay, there is service statelessness. Statelessness is basically like a service shouldn't um, store a state. Okay, let's say if it is get balance, let's say my operation is get balance. Okay, so if someone sends me an account number, I just have to give its balance and that's all. I have to forget that account number. I shouldn't store the account number somewhere. Okay, so basically my every component within a SOA application has to be stateless. So these are the different principles that you need to follow while building a SOA application. Okay, so SOA describes all these standards, right? Or in other words, SOA gives you all these principles, but how do we achieve it? Like, okay, if someone asks me to build a SOA application, I know that I need to follow these 7 principles. Okay, but how do I write the code? Like, I cannot do everything, right? That is where service component architecture comes into picture. Okay, now if you see this almost looks like service oriented architecture, but the only thing is difference is service component architecture. Okay, so basically in this we are talking about the implementation. Service oriented architecture is nothing but principles, right? It is, those are just definitions or guidelines. Now the actual implementation is basically done by SCA, or otherwise called service component architecture. I can give you a very simple example. Like you have, I mean, you all are aware of Java, right? You know the Java spec. Okay, using the Java spec you can write the code. Okay, but after that what you do, like you need a runtime to run it, right? And you need the compiler to compile it first, and then you need a runtime to run it. So all those things actually form the implementation part. Okay, so similarly, a similar analogy here is service oriented architecture gives you principles and the component architecture lets you do it. Okay, so what is SCA? SCA is nothing but a unifying framework for standardizing and simplifying the development, deployment and management of atomic service components, okay, which are following SOA. Okay, so it basically helps you, SCA basically helps you in doing the stuff. Okay, SOA just tells you, SCA does the stuff. SCA provides a model for building applications that leverage SOA principles. Okay, so when you do something on using SCA, so SCA is an implementation specific thing, right? So when you implement a code on an SCA based tool, you are automatically adhering to all the SOA principles. Okay, so that is what SCA makes sure. It provides a model for building your business applications. In simple terms, it is like a platform on which you develop your SOA applications in a more standard, easier and flexible manner. So now we have something on which we can do SOA applications. Okay, so we have someone to help, or we have a tool which you can use to do SOA. Okay, and Oracle's implementation to SCA is nothing but Oracle SOA Suite 12c. Okay, so now you know the difference between service oriented architecture or SOA to Oracle SOA Suite 12c. SOA is nothing but a set of principles, whereas Oracle SOA Suite 12c is nothing but the tool on which you develop, you deploy, and then you run the applications. Okay, so that is what is Oracle SOA Suite 12c. Now Oracle SOA Suite 12c doesn't only provide all the principles that SOA tells you, it even has its own features, because Oracle also has its own research team, right? I mean, if Oracle provides the basic stuff, there are so many open source technologies that provides you those basic stuff. Oracle has its signature, right? So it has given you many other features over the standard specification. So this is the reason why Oracle is so hot in the market. Like, Oracle is one of the best tools for SOA. I mean, Oracle SOA Suite is one of the best tools in the market for SOA. There are like many tools, okay, but Oracle, I mean, when it comes to SOA, Oracle is like maybe top 1 or 2. Okay. So before I continue, I will take you through a business use case. So I will first explain you the business use case, and then I will draw a very simple diagram and see what a business requirement really asks you, okay, and how Oracle SOA Suite helps you in achieving that. Now, we all know about expense reporting system, so let's take the same example. So we will talk about this business use case called expense reporting system. How does it work? So an employee basically logs into a portal and then he files an expense, right? So basically, as part of filing expenses, he would provide some comments and attach all the receipts, right? Now next, what happens? Each expense report would consist of an employee and project details, comments and attachments, and each expense report goes to the manager for approval. So manager would provide comments and act on the task. So basically, acting on the task is basically either rejecting or approving the expense report. When he approves the expense report, a notification is sent to the second level manager. Okay, let's say the business use case is, I mean, when your manager approves, it goes to your director just as an FYI. Okay, I mean, he doesn't have to approve it, but just as an FYI. Okay, maybe this is the requirement of this particular company. Further approvals to the report would follow the criteria as below. So after your manager approves, what should happen? If the amount is less than 20,000, first level approval is sufficient. Okay, so if I am filing for 2,000 rupees, so my manager approval is sufficient, I get the money. If the amount is greater than 20,000, a second level approval is required from the finance department, because the amount is huge. And then the finance department would provide the comments and act on the task. And after the needed approvals, the process initiates a third-party credit system to credit the amount. At each and every point, a corresponding email notification is usually sent. So this is the business use case that we need to develop. Okay, so we want to develop a expense reporting system with all these features. Okay, so let's first of all draw a very simple diagram to see how this is achieved. Okay, so if you're clear on the business use case, then we will start the diagram. Otherwise, I'll just go through again if you have any questions. Okay, I take it as no questions, and let me draw the diagram, like how do we achieve this business use case. Okay, now it all starts with you, right? So this is you, and first what you do, you log in, correct? You log into your self-service application, or say your expense application, whatever your company has. Okay, so you get a online portal, so you log into the page, and then what you do, you provide comments and then you provide attachments, correct? And then you submit it. Okay, once you submit, what happens? Usually what happens, a mail is sent to your manager, right? A manager gets a mail that your resource has submitted an expense report, please act on that. Okay, so when your manager sees the email, he clicks on a link, and then he will be sent to the same service, self-service application, but into his portal. Okay, so he will see all the expenses filed. So he will see your expense here. Okay, now the manager can actually do one of the three things. He can either approve, or if the manager feels that there are some attachments missing or the comments are not appropriate, or he feels that the amount is like too high or too low, he can actually send back, or maybe I can say reject and send back. Or if he's really, if he thinks that the expense it doesn't make any sense, let's say he files expense for his personal phone, it doesn't make sense, right? So he can actually cancel it, correct? So he can do one of these three things. When you look at the service requirement, it tells you like the manager can just approve or reject, but I'm just giving you another example. Okay, so what happens when the manager cancels the application, you get a mail, correct, saying your expense report is cancelled. And when a manager rejects and send back, what happens? You get a mail, and or let me do a dot here, a dotted line, and you get back the same application, and then you get a mail. So the mail clearly tells you like provide all the attachments, etc. So you would again do the task, and again you resubmit. It goes to the manager. So this is manager, and this is you. Okay. Now, when he approves it, let's look at the use case. The use case says if the amount is less than 20,000, one level approval is fine. I'm sorry, we forgot something. So here, this one. Once a manager approves, a notification is sent to the second level manager, who is basically the manager of your manager. For example, say director, just as an FII. Okay. So after he approves it, there will be an email to the manager of your manager. Correct? It could be director, it could be CEO, it depends on your level. If you are a manager, your manager's manager could be at a higher position. Whatever it is, it actually happens on the runtime, right? Because this portal is same for everyone. Okay, so a mail is sent, and the next requirement is if the amount is less than 20,000, then you are good. One level approval is sufficient. If the amount is greater than 20,000, a second level approval for the finance department is required. Okay, so this approve thing again divides into two things, say greater than 20k and less than 20k. Okay, so let's talk through the greater than 20k one. So if it is greater than 20,000, what happens? It goes to your finance department, correct? Now remember, finance department is not a single guy. Finance department would have like multiple people, right? It could have like 20 or 30 people working in the finance department, and everyone gets a mail, and then one of the guy would act on the task. So if you know about the service tickets, whenever you raise a service ticket, what happens like to the admin team? All the admin guys, like it could be hundreds of admins, they get an email, correct? Like a new service ticket is created. So someone looks at it whenever whoever is free, he actually logs in, and then he starts acting on the task. So when he starts acting on the ticket, the moment he starts it, like it goes off from the other's queue, right? Let's say there are 10 people. Okay, initially the ticket will be on everyone's queue when it is not started, but let's say the 7th person has acted on this task, or at least opened the task, then the task is removed from all the others, right? Just to avoid duplicacy and just to avoid extra effort, like only one can act on one ticket, right? So the same way, finance department has multiple people. Okay, and when it is greater than 20,000, the request is sent to them, and then one of the guy would actually act on the task, and he can do two things now. He can either approve it or reject it, correct? If he rejects, then the person would get an email, and then the process would stop, correct? So let me end it this way. Okay, now if he approves, what happens? After the needed approvals, the process initiates a third-party credit system which ultimately credits your amount. Okay, so when he approves, it calls another service, which is the banking service. It's a third-party service, a credit service. Okay, and this basically deposits the amount in your bank account. The same thing happens here. When the amount is less than 20k, one level approval is fine, and then it invokes the service. Okay, so this is a very simple flow diagram. I've drawn it in a very simple way so that everyone would understand. I did not do the visual diagram because obviously that is not the point here. So this is our business application, correct? Now this is called a business application because it gives you a complete business meaning end to end, right? It starts from you, it ends at crediting the application, crediting the amount. So it's basically business functionality. Okay, now in order to do this, like what are the various things that are involved in this particular application? Okay, so let's note down one by one what are the different things that you would require in building a business application like this, and then we will talk about SOA. We will look into SOA and see whether SOA really helps us or not. Okay, so let me open a notepad and write down what are the different things that we have here. So by the way, is the example clear to everyone? I mean, this is just a simple business use case that I have taken so that you would understand the different components of SOA. Any doubts, you can stop me at any point. Okay, okay, this is an old message, cannot see your screen. Okay, yeah. Okay, let us note down what are the different things that are required. First one, the very basic one is login services, okay, and security. Obviously, right, this is a third-party service, and all these are, this is a manager portal, this is like your finance department portal. So obviously there would be security within each and every application, right? And what is the second one that we have? Second one, when you see, I mean, the whole thing flows in a particular order, right? So there is a specific routing involved. Okay, so it cannot happen ad hoc, right? It cannot go from manager to a director to finance department. It has to follow a particular path. So there is something called routing. In other words, I can say it as orchestration or composition. Okay, if I take each and every block here as a service, I'm actually interlinking all the services to get my business functionality. Okay, that is basically service composition. And what is the third one that you have? Now this guy, the credit system that you see here, okay, let me change the color. Okay, the credit service that you see here, it is a third-party service, right? Now when it's a third-party service, it need not be web service. I mean, it could be implemented in anything. Let's say this is a mainframe service. Okay, now we all know that we cannot directly talk to mainframe. I mean, when we do a point-to-point, what is the problem we have seen yesterday? Okay, so what we did, we basically wrapped it so that it talks XML. Okay, so in other words, we are making this mainframe service as a web service. Okay, so basically what are we doing? We are doing a wrapper code, correct? Wrapper code for all the native applications, okay, or say other technology applications. That is one thing. So we are basically listing out different things involved in this particular thing. Okay, and what is the other one that you have? Now this one is a service. This is a third-party service. Like you give the input, it gives you, it does your work. Now what about these things? Like your manager and then the finance department. These are not simple services, correct? These are not request response things. These are basically human tasks, correct? When a particular task is assigned to your manager, he has to act on it, right? There is no machine that is acting. Like he has to log in and he has to do it yourself. So basically human intervention is there within this application. Okay, now how is human intervention different from a regular service? A regular service is either basically a request response or a fire and forget. It could be something. Now, but in a regular service, you know what would be the output because you know all the logic. Whereas when there is a human intervention, you cannot predict the output because the manager can act on the task. You can think of saying that he can either approve or reject, but there could be another thing. He can just sit and doesn't act on the task. Okay, or it could be another thing wherein the manager goes on a leave for 1 month. Okay, you cannot just put the application. In that case, it has to be escalated to his manager so that he approves it, or the manager can actually resign after you submit the expense report. So there are so many unpredictable things within a human intervention. That is the reason why it is different from a normal service. Okay, and then what is the other thing that you have? Okay, let's talk about the third party service only again. Okay, now this third party service basically credits the amount in your account, right? So this guy does some work and he doesn't do it for free, correct? You do a hit, you give a hit, you have to pay some amount. He does a service charge. Okay, that's fine. Like he's doing the work, I'm paying it. But what if I'm not giving him proper information? Let's say the information that I need to give here is the person's name, account number, what is the amount, etc. Right? Now, what if I don't verify the account number, or what if I don't verify the name, or if something is blank and I just send the request to credit service? It would fail the request, but it would cost me, right? Because he has done some work, whether he has credited it or whether he has rejected the request, it doesn't matter. Every hit costs you money. So instead of just hitting the service, it is better if you validate the request before hitting the service, correct? What is the advantage? The advantage is simple routing, simple rules. If you can apply, like you should have a not null account number, and the account number has to be 7 digits, and your name has to be not null. So if you apply some simple rules, like all the invalid requests, you can actually filter out here itself, so that you're actually saving some money, right? So basically you need to do some kind of filtering here. So I would say message filtering and message validation. Okay, and then what is the other thing that is involved in this application? So let's think of it, different things. Yes, there is something here. Okay, now there is some rule here saying that if it is greater than 20, you follow one approach. If it is less than 20, you follow another approach, correct? And this is basically at a routing level. If you see, this logic is not within the web services or within the services. It is something outside your flow, but basically it is commanding your flow, right? Like how to go, where to go, it is telling you. So this is kind of a rule that you have. So I could say it as routing rule, or to be specific, I can say it as business rule, because it is the rule that is defining my business, right? Either to go to finance department or not. Okay, that's one thing. And then, okay, I'll tell you a situation. Let's say I submit an expense report for say $250. Okay, and then I submit. There are 3 attachments, but initially I thought there are only 2 attachments, and then I submit the application. My manager did not observe it, and he knows me, so he just approves it. Okay, and then it is in the finance department queue. Obviously finance department would take some time, right? Suddenly you realize that you did not submit third attachment. Okay, or you suddenly realize that the amount is not 250 but it is actually 350. So what you do, you immediately log into your portal and then you withdraw the task, right? Because the moment finance department sees if it is not there, they would reject it. So instead of doing that, you would actually want to withdraw and resubmit, right? So what happens when you do a withdraw? When I do a withdraw, right now my application is waiting in the finance department queue. The application has to come out from there and then it has to come back to me, right? Now Okay, in this situation, the application is in finance department queue. It might be with my manager also. Okay, it depends on when I withdraw the task. It could be with my manager or with my finance department or at any point, correct? So in this case, like, how do I explain? So when you withdraw the task, you have to do some work, like you have to find out where it is and then you have to get it back. Okay, so I will just put that in words. How do you write that? Say, I would say withdraw only. Withdraw at any point. Okay, irrespective of the current situation. Okay, whatever. I'll just say this. Okay, and what is the other thing that you have in this business application? So at every point you are talking about sending an email, right? So sending an email. So you need to have notifications. It could be an email, it could be an SMS, it could be a fax, whatever it is. Okay, so these are the various things, and maybe I can write one more. Let's say this is a third party service, right? Okay, and you are in Europe. Okay, let's say I'm in Europe, so I'm in UK specifically. Okay, so I expense my amount in pounds, correct? But let's say this system is hosted in Europe, so it accepts euros. Okay, so before I send the pound value, I would need to convert it to euros and then send it, right? So there is some kind of transformation is also required. I mean, I'm just giving you an example. It could be as simple as this. Like, I treat my first name and last name separately in my application, whereas this guy treats it as a same, only full name. So I need to concatenate the first name and last name. So whatever it is, basically I need to do some transformations because the third party service could be in any format. Okay. So these are the various things that has come out now. I have listed 9 different things that are there in this simple application. Okay, now a real expense reporting system would not be so simple. It would be much more complex. Okay, but I don't want to deal with a complex example. I want you to understand the concept. So in such a simple example itself, we have so many things to achieve. So just imagine you writing everything in some language like Java. Okay, now definitely you can do everything literally in Java. Okay, or you can do everything in .NET. You can take any programming language, you can definitely do it. But what is the pain point? The pain point is it takes time to do things, correct? Because Java or any programming language, you have to build everything yourself, correct? Now let's see if Oracle SOA Suite helps us in building this business application. Okay, let's see if Oracle has anything already pre-built for each and everything that is listed here. So I'm opening JDeveloper. It's already, I just opened it. Okay, it's some example on my machine. But this is Oracle SOA Suite 12c. This is basically JDeveloper and I have Oracle SOA extension to it. Okay, now what is JDev, what is Oracle SOA extension, all these things you will learn. I mean, the third session is completely dedicated to installation. So you will learn about the design time, runtime, what are the different components involved, what is the configuration, etc. But for now, we are just understanding the concept, right? So we'll see if Oracle SOA Suite would help us in doing all these things. Okay. So first one is login services and security. Does Oracle SOA Suite provide me this? Yes, there is a concept called Oracle Web Services Manager, okay, which completely deals with which completely deals with security, okay, and management in the sense monitoring, etc. Okay, so this sits on top of your Oracle SOA Suite. So you write your application and you can just plug in the components. Like if you want an SSL, you just, what you do, it's so simple. Like you just say, I'm sorry, you right click on this. There is no web service DB adapters. That's the reason I cannot do it. This is a DB, or let me say it here. Okay, so here it is, configure web service SOA policies. So you just add.
Ravi, we are able to see your text pad, not the JDeveloper.
Oh, is it? I think the screen is still refreshing there.
No, I am able to see it.
Yeah, even I am able to see.
Okay.
I think some issue with your screen. Okay, good.
Maybe do you want to rejoin? Like we'll wait for a minute, or you just see if there is any refresh button somewhere.
Okay, fine.
Okay, so let me continue. Like if you miss this section, like you can always recheck it. Okay, so I'm talking about security, right? So applying security is so simple. Like you don't have to code anything. You just right click configure SOA policies. What is the policy you want? Let's say, I mean, in my thing, there are only 5 policies attached, but I can have, or I mean, a SAML with message protection I want. Okay, you just have to just select it and say okay. Okay, and then it automatically comes into your application. So it's so simple. Okay, there is a lock icon here, right? So that tells you that there is some policy on it. Okay, it's so simple. I mean, I do not have connection to MDS. That's the reason I couldn't see it. But that is how it happens. Like you can apply it to your reference or your component or your composite, whatever it is. Okay, so SOA provides you. So it's so simple. You don't have to write all the SSL code, etc. And next thing, routing or orchestration or composition. That does Oracle SOA Suite provide a pre-built component. So we have this JDeveloper, and if you look at this, this is called BPEL. Okay, or you can also see it in the component section, BPEL. I already have an implemented BPEL. This is a real-time example, so you can actually see it, how it looks. So this is a BPEL. When I double click it, see, this is all orchestration. What's happening? Like you get a request, you do some assignment, you call another service. In this case, you're calling JDE to get the header, and you're checking if it is valid or not. If it's not valid, you're sending an exception. If it is valid, you're getting the lines again from JDE, and you're doing the transformation, and then you are raising an event. So basically, this is all orchestration, right? Now, what is in this logic? It is not required, but basically, you're doing one after the other. So that is what BPEL does. Okay, so it gives you a pre-built component called BPEL. So let me write it down here. And what is the other one? Wrapper code for all the native applications. Okay, so I have a third-party service in our example, which is implemented in mainframe. Obviously, I cannot talk to mainframe directly, right? I don't know the protocol. So if I can wrap the code in some way so that it speaks XML, it would be great. That's what we have seen yesterday. So the same thing here. If you look at this read JDE asset thing here, it is actually talking to Oracle JDE. Okay, JDE speaks some language which I don't even know what JDE speaks. Okay, but I'm talking to JDE just with the help of an adapter called database adapter. Okay, I do some configuration in this, obviously, to connect to JDE. So basically what this adapter does is it will convert the JDE format to the web service format. Okay, same thing here. If you look at this component palette, there are these technology adapters. So you can talk to an ADF-PC component, you can talk to an AQ, you can talk to MQ, LDAP. So all these things are different technologies, right? But what these adapters do is they basically act as a wrapper code to convert that protocol into a web service. Okay, so we have something called technology adapters for the wrapper code. Okay, and the next one is human intervention, one of the most complicated things that you will have to do when you are using a native programming language. Like in Java, if you want to implement human intervention, like it is hell, I can tell you, because there are so many things involved. It is asynchronous, and then you have different scenarios, like he might be resigning, or he goes on a leave, or he doesn't act on that, whatever it is. But Oracle SOA Suite provides a ready-made component called human task here. I mean, when we look at the human task, when we are really doing the examples, you will see that it is so easy. I mean, you can have multiple level approval chains also. So I just wanted to show you. I'm not doing any example, but see, here is the assignment, right? So here you can have any number of stages, like your manager, then your director, then your CEO. It can go to CEO or it can go to your director, whatever. I mean, you have everything like the deadlines, notifications, everything you have. Okay. And next is message filtering and message validation. This can be done using a simple XSLT, or you also have a mediator component. Mediator component also helps you in doing a routing. It is a small scale ESB. Okay, but I mean all the transformation you usually do either in a mediator or you even do in a BPEL. So here is an XSLT where you're doing all the transformations. So I can say either in a mediator or XSLT or whatever. And then there is business rule. Okay. Now in this example, where is the business rule? Like this less than 20k, greater than 20k. This one I'm telling you as business rule, and then I can show you Oracle SOA provides you a ready-made component for that called, where is it? Okay. Oracle business rules. Now you might think like, what is this? For just such a simple example, you need a business rule? I mean, within this example only, I'll tell you why it is important. Now today it is 20k. Let's say tomorrow you move it to 25k. Okay. If this is coded within the application, then this simple change would require a redeployment, right? So obviously in production, a redeployment cycle takes a month because you need to do development, SIT, UAT, and then production. If it is a business rule, you can do these changes on the fly. Okay, you just do the change, say apply, and 20 changes to 25. That is the advantage. Now this is a very simple example, but business rule you can do very, very complicated. You can define complicated rules in that. So this you have it as a business rule component, and then withdraw at any point irrespective of the current situation. You will use events for doing this. When we really do that, you will know what is the use of an event, but I can show you. So this mark here, this is basically an event. In this case, it is publishing an event. I'm sorry, yes, it is publishing an event in this case. But what is an event? Everything like we'll do when it comes. And then the notification. You have something, a notification. If you see here, you don't see any ready-made component here, but there is something called Oracle components. Where is that? My components or templates or pages. UMS. Yes, this is UMS. UMS is user messaging services. So this is an Oracle specific component. I mean, the regular SOA doesn't tell you. This is Oracle specific component, and this gives you various options like fax, SMS, phone. I mean, it gives you many options, not only email. Email is a general thing, right? It even gives you many things. Why you require, if you're doing a CRM application, you have sales representatives who roam around, right? So they need either an SMS or a phone call. Email is not sufficient. So those things you can do it using UMS. And also human task has a notification embedded into that, which also uses UMS, by the way. And then the transformations, you can do it using the XSLT or mediators. So what did we achieve? What did we realize finally? Finally, what we realized is we have seen a full-fledged business requirement. We have identified what are the different complicated things, or what are the different things involved first of all, and how complex they are, each and everything. And then we have actually seen in Oracle SOA Suite and observe that for each and every requirement we have a pre-built component. Okay, so that is the advantage of using SOA Suite or a SOA tool. Okay, so Oracle SOA Suite is so robust that it gives you all the pre-built components, and it makes sure that your application adheres to all these 7 SOA principles, which means your application is SOA. So when your application is SOA, you know what are the advantages. Okay, so that is what Oracle SOA Suite provides you. Let me go back to the slides. Where are we? Okay, So we are somewhere here, right? So the whole business case that we have seen, we finally realized that Oracle SOA Suite gives you or offers you pre-built components so that you can actually think of your business logic rather than doing the extra stuff. Okay, so implementing a human task is so complicated, like you don't have to worry about it. You just think of your business logic, like, okay, my manager is there and then his manager is there, and then what are in the business rule, you just think of the numbers, but you don't think of how it is implemented. Okay, so basically all the boilerplate code that a business application would require, that is done by Oracle SOA Suite. You just concentrate on your business logic. Okay, so that way the advantage that you have is within very small time you can achieve your business functionality, and in the same time you are adhering to the SOA principles, so your application is really robust. Okay, so what are the components of SOA Suite 12G? We just saw everything: mediators, adapters. I went through everything, so I don't want to go through again. BPEL, which is business process execution language, which is orchestration. Human tasks, business rules. Event-driven architecture is for events, like for the withdrawal and user messaging services, and OWSM. And you also have something called business activity monitoring, which basically monitors your application. So you want to know how many outgoing calls are happening. Yes, you have monitoring facilities also provided in Oracle SOA Suite. So we'll go through each and every topic that is listed here with a practical example, so you will know how to use Oracle SOA Suite. Okay, so any questions till now? If you don't understand anything or if something is missing, you can just let me know. Or I'm a little fast, you can just tell me.
So you're also teaching BPM also? Yes. You're covering BPM also?
No, this takes care on only Oracle SOA Suite. Oracle BPM Suite also it is integrated in JDeveloper, but it is completely a different topic. I mean, BPM is built on top of SOA, so that's the next thing that you need to do. But the basic thing is SOA, and this course covers only SOA.
Okay.
Yep. And another thing I wanted to tell you, this is a developer or a consultant oriented course, so you will understand how to build or how to integrate all the applications, or basically how to use Oracle SOA Suite, and also you will learn about various admin concepts. Like, I wouldn't say you will learn about all the admin concepts because it is not an administrative course, but I will take you through many admin concepts which you want in your daily work, because I've been doing this since years now, so I know what a consultant would do, what a developer would do, correct? So I will also take you through all the admin concepts so that it would be really helpful for you. And then I have a question. Will this course cover each and every module? Yes. The next thing, that is what I wanted to take you through after these questions. I'll take you through the course content. Okay. So I'll introduce my blog. So the course content is listed here. As I told you, the first two sessions are just demo sessions. Okay. So you wouldn't see any practical implementation. Third session is about installation. Now installation, why one session for installation? Because SOA is so complicated, like you have so many things. Actually in 12C everything is integrated, like you have a single installation file which you double click and everything is ready. Okay, so we are done, but I actually wanted to tell you like what is the configuration, and I will actually explain you how to install 11G also, because 11G is like you need to do everything, and when you do everything you will know what is inside the SOA, because there are like 5 different installations required and 3 configurations, so you'll know everything. So I'll explain you both 12C and 11G just for the third session. And from fourth session onwards, we'll do on Oracle 12c. So each and every component that I have been telling you, like mediators, adapters, BPL, human tasks, business rules, transformation. So everything we will cover using a practical example. And actually what we do is every example we will reuse it in future, okay, so that you will really understand the advantage of SOA, the reusability. Okay, and we'll also talk about the security concepts. Now this is something that is not told everywhere. So I've been in one of the projects on SAML, so I can actually take you through the SAML implementations. And then with testing, and then there is a concept called service data objects. This is not used in many projects, but it is actually really helpful. It is basically a combination of both ADF and SOA, so I wanted to take you through that because Oracle is encouraging ADF whenever it comes to SOA. That is the reason. And then we also talk about business activity monitoring. It is out of SOA, but I will do an example and I will show you like how do we monitor each and everything. So this is a whole course content. You can, actually when you go through the course content now, it would make little sense to you because you know what each and every component is. So you will know what you will learn. So any questions on what you will learn or what are the different things that you see, you can ask me. One thing I wanted to tell you, we won't go through each and every adapter because obviously, it's not required. There are like 20-25 different service adapters, but the generally used ones like the JMS adapter, file, data source, and even database, and even I can take you through AQ adapters. These are mostly used, like in 90% of the projects only these are used. So I will take you through these adapters, and I can point you to the material where you can learn about the other adapters, but that's very rare. Okay, so that depends on your interest and project work. That is the only thing that we don't cover entirely, like all the 20 adapters we don't cover, but otherwise like each and every component in Oracle SOA Suite we would cover. Any questions you have? We're right on time. Okay, Tommy asked me if there is any reading material. Yes, I'm telling you again, I haven't written any material on myself, but I can actually point you to different material topic wise. So let's say for database adapters, I would point you to a link so you can directly refer to that. Instead of going through like multiple books, I can actually give you the links to material, and all the material is freely available except one book which you can actually download if you search on internet, or you can even buy it. That is how it is. Like I don't provide any training material, but I will provide you the links so that indirectly you have the training material. And then end of the course, like if you practice along with me, you will be project ready. And for doing the certification, you obviously need little reading because certification is more of theoretical. So you need little reading along with the course. So within a month, you can actually do it. Because in SOA, you don't write anything, right? It's more of configuration. You drag and drop. Everything is done underneath. So let me show you the BPL process. Okay. So this is an invoke activity. You are calling a service. So calling a service is like little complex, right? But if you go underneath it, it's nothing but an XML code. Okay. But SOA tool does it for you. You don't have to do anything. Okay. And even the mappings also, when you do this, like it is all, you just browse everything. Okay. So you just have to know how to configure the tool, how to use the tool, and you're done. That's how SOA is. But as far as BPL is concerned, I would say like if not now, maybe in future when you're really working on the projects, I will give you a link to a book which is really nice. It takes you through the code, what is being built at the back end. Okay, why that is helpful is because you will know what's happening beneath. You just do all the configuration even the projects, but it is always better if you know the details underneath, right? That's my idea. So I'm stopping the recording.